You've met Joe Griffo. You've met Rudy Giuliani, right?
I have met Rudy.
Yeah,
several times.
Yeah.
What happened? Did Rudy do something?
Well, he and his wife are heading for DIVORCE, it looks like.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Second time for Rudy.
Right. We were just talking about the kid. Remember during the inauguration, the kid in the background, and Chris Farley played him on SNL, and that was a previous marriage. That wasn't this one.
That was a previous marriage. Actually, it's no different than Trudeau's kid. You see, they had Trudeau's kid stealing all the attention for his recent visit abroad. Prime Minister of Canada.
Right. I thought you were talking about actually the Prime Minister, because he is also Trudeau's kid, right?
That's what I mean, the Prime Minister.
Right, I know that. So it's the son of the original, who's now the original, and his kid. Yeah, he was doing this.
That's pretty good, though.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with that, Joe.
And there was a congressman's kid who did the dab in front of Paul Ryan too. He got grounded for that.
That's
too.
right. All right, Joe, I wanted to get your take. First of all, on the situation with New Hartford, the foundation aid, of course, increased for schools across the state. That certainly helped New Hartford and other schools. And then the bullet aid that is another $300,000. You had the announcement yesterday. This, you know what's interesting, Joe? This is not going away, though. While this Band-Aid has been placed there and is much needed, what are we going to do with schools? If you have schools like New Hartford where they have decent, for upstate New York, decent property values, business, et cetera, their scores are high. It's one of the top-rated schools in upstate New York. And when they're struggling, doesn't that make you worry about schools all over?
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. The first answer to your question is we were successful, and we talked about this on your show, but it's not bullet aid. What it was actually a budget appropriation.
Got it.
And it's part of a valuation assistance impact grant. So it's supplemental valuation assistance impact grant.
One-time deal.
It's a one-time deal. Goes through the budget, even though we got them some money last year to the very same thing. And that money is available for communities that are going through something transformational or transitional because of something beyond their control. In this case, it was the tax certiorari situation that obviously had a substantial impact on what was taking place in New Hartford. So that's how we were able to achieve that through strong advocacy and a good case that was presented by the New Hartford official.
Yeah.
So, but going to your point overall, we talked about this. We need to have a complete overhaul of the method and manner in which we provide funding for education. The foundation aid was meant to offset the problems that existed before as a result of the Campaign for Fiscal Equity lawsuit. So in this case, there's not been the courage, basically, from the governor or even the legislature to get together and say, let's fix this. Let's drive money to where really it needs to be most in the high needs, low wealth districts. The problem is we all represent a region, just as I thought, with the support of the assembly members. For the money for New Hartford, other people are doing in other areas of the state.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the contributing factors that causes us not to find an answer when we need to find that answer. And I actually believe we need to find a different way to finance how we fund schools. We should really look at, when you talk about taxes, we should have a fundamental review of all of the taxes in New York State. We always talk about lowering them, but we also should determine maybe we can eliminate the property tax and find a different way to fund education. Those are the kind of things with expert stakeholders should all be involved in this, but that's what we should be doing, but we haven't.
Well, I thought that was going to be handled by the lottery, and I'm not sure how that's helped. Maybe it'd be worse without the lottery. I don't know. I want to ask you, we had a guy that you brought to us last year after he ran the Boilermaker, the Dutchess County Executive, Mark Molinaro. He is a candidate for governor on this morning. It's been said there will not be a primary, that the party, Republicans, conservatives, will be unified in their quest for the governorship. What are your thoughts on Molinaro, and is he your pick over DeFrancisco? What do you think?
On the first, no, I support Senator DeFrancisco and his efforts, and I know Mark when he was in the Assembly, and I know he also knows our county executive. Pacenti knows Mark, too, so he's a good man. He's very credentialed. I think we need to allow the process to unfold. Both of them will make their case to the delegates now, and the convention is in May. I think it is important that the party unify after the decision is made in May. Both are equally talented and capable candidates. So it'll be, I think we're fortunate to have two individuals who are willing to represent themselves. And I think it just shows the real need to have a change right now in New York. We need to change for a lot of reasons, but if you really take a look at what's taking place upstate and the many of the challenges that continue to face the upstate economy, I think these type of voices, true people from upstate, and which will be very difficult for an upstater to win the gubernatorial election, but not impossible. Mr. Molinaro obviously comes from the Hudson Valley, which is upstate, but still close to the city. So I think from a geographic political perspective, there's more association that way. So it's very difficult when you're coming from central New York.
I do have to say the one thing that you've always talked about is the advantage that Republicans have in the Senate. Despite losing a majority, you had this independent Democratic conference to work along with, to caucus with. The governor, getting some pressure, it looks like, from Cynthia Nixon, has moved to the left and lured them back in. What is that going to mean for Republicans upstate?
Well, it's going to be bad for the state overall if we go back to a monolithic government where you have one party control and one region domination. So if ultimately we anticipated that there was some movement in this regard, and obviously he's fearful of the left, he's trying to get the Working Families Party endorsement, and as a result of that, he's going to take steps that he feels he needs to take from a political perspective. But from a policy perspective, the last time we saw this, this is something we don't want a sequel of. We had $14 billion in new taxes. We had $14 billion in new spending. Some of the personalities have changed in that conference, but it's still the same type of approach that would be taken, and that's a focus on the downstate region. Just to give an illustration back then, and I can show you a picture that was really worth 1,000 words in this case. And I can show you something at another point when I get into the studio. But the last time, for instance, we know there's a need at the MTA, and MTA was funded, and there was a fiscal crisis facing the state at that time. Patterson was governor, and there was an IOU promise to upstate for roads and bridges. It was never fulfilled. And that's what's going to happen. That kind of thing is where there'll be a real bias and a focus on the urban center and the metropolitan area. And I think we all suffer. So I think divided government has shown that it can work. We can still govern. We can still disagree and have balanced policy. So we'll see what happens right now. There's still a number of factors under consideration. There's a special election going on in Westchester, and that's going to be really important over the next 2 weeks. Even though the odds are in favor, it's currently held by a Democrat. The odds are in favor of Democrats winning. But maybe that can be, if that upset is pulled, that would be significant. Yeah. Beyond that, the other factor is Senator Felder, who's a very conservative Democrat from the city, who sits with the Republican conference right now, particularly on many social issues. So it's going to be, there's a lot of intangibles still in this. I get why the governor did it, but I don't think it's really smart. You look at only 2 months left in the remainder of session, and this is a guy whose brand is all about functionality, and you want to bring some type of chaotic behavior to the Capitol right now before the end of the legislative session. It really makes no sense. It may be good politics for him on the left, but it's bad policy for the people of New York.
All right, Joe, interesting times. We appreciate it, as always, and we'll do it again. Thanks so much for the impromptu call in here this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, take care.
All right, Joe, thanks. Senator Joe Griffo.